Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Collider Studio, presented by Saratoga Spring Water. I have the treat of welcoming the team behind A Little Prayer to the studio. Hello, and congratulations on your movie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. I need to get you to do synopsis duties. I have a feeling you're going to get asked this a lot, so this is good training for the millions of interviews you're going to do. But can you tell our audience a little bit about what A Little Prayer is about?
Sure. It's about a man living in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, who tries to protect his daughter-in-law when he finds out his son is having an affair. The man's played by David Strathairn, and his son is Will Pullen, and his daughter-in-law is Jane Levy, and his wife is Celia, Weston.
Job well done. You're off to a great start. I was reading that you started working on the screenplay in 2016. So what would you say is the biggest difference between how you envisioned the film turning out back then and what you wound up with in the end?
Oh, what an interesting question. Gosh, I mean, it went through a lot of different permutations, but you dream a certain dream and then you claw your way towards the finish line. And I can't imagine, a better cast. We shot where it takes place in my hometown of Winston-Salem. So I can't really tell you how it's different than when I envisioned it. It's just that it exists at all is great.
Every single film is a miracle, and again, I know this took a little bit of time to get off the ground over the course of that particular process of getting a green light. What would you say was the low point, a time that made you think Dan, this might not happen, and how'd you overcome it?
Yeah, no, there were 2 or 3 times where it was just completely dead in the water, and I had other producers who just said, we can't get this made, and they left. And then the great Lauren Vilcek came on and said, there's always a way. And then Max Butler came on, and COVID happened, which was a big thing, which put everything in purgatory for a year and a half at least. So all of those things, which I'm sure is the story of every film this year at Sundance, went through the same thing.
There's a lot of that, and I've asked this at a couple others who encountered those kinds of challenges, and I don't like looking for silver linings in the pandemic, but I do find that when you strip away the things that you're used to having while making a film, you could find new corners of your craft that you wouldn't have been able to had you had all those things that you're used to. So for each of you, is there anything new you discovered because of not having those typical things on set?
I don't think I have a good answer for that question.
Gosh.
I feel like because of COVID, we were there pretty much the whole time we shot, so that for all of us, I think in different ways, we got to explore Winston-Salem a little bit, which was it's certainly helpful for me to kind of just take in the town and the area and the nature in the area, to kind of put it all in our collective DNA was super helpful. That I just think probably with busy schedules and before COVID, we would have been more in and out. So that was a really nice thing we got to have.
And Angus is excellent at taking these intimate families and what on the surface looks commonplace and the dreaded word average, but then he finds what's unique about them and beautiful and intimate, and their struggles are monumental to them, and he gives us those characters to play, and it's a gift to have them.
Celia, I know you worked with Angus before. What is something about his work as an actor's director that stayed the same, and what's something that he did on A Little Prayer that made you go wow, I never realized you were capable of that?
Well, I'll just repeat what you said. He's an actor's director. And I was saying, I've said this earlier, that I think he's a beautiful writer, and but that he is also an actor, and he honors that, and those that he invites to be with him, and he looks to their ingenuity. He wants it, depends on it, invites it, and that's like bonanza time for an actor.
I love hearing that, Will and Jane. I'll throw that one to you to expand on that a little bit. Do you remember a time on this set when Angus's approach to directing his actors invited you to bring something else that wasn't maybe originally on the page?
I'm not sure I can think of a specific moment, but something that is so special and moving to me about Angus as a writer and a director is that it feels as if he has profound respect for the characters he writes, and the characters are flawed, as all humans are, but there's no like political or moralistic point of view that he just lets people be, and in their humanness, like I find them to be, I love these characters so much, and it makes playing them really meaningful. They're humans with a lot of need, and I just feel really lucky to have been a part of this.
Yeah, I don't know that there was a specific moment. Angus and I were trying to figure out in the car when exactly we first started talking about the film, and I just felt like since it was over Zoom, the first time it felt like this really gentle collaboration where there was a lot of room for both of us to ask questions and explore together. So by the time we got to set, I think it was like a year and a half later, there was I felt really at ease, because there's a lot of darkness in this film. So it's really like a vulnerable place to be. So I feel like Angus did a really fantastic job of letting us all feel safe, taken care of, at ease to explore those darker areas of all the characters.
Angus, kind of leaning into what they both described, someone brought up recently the idea of movies having a participatory quality, and I really appreciate that, where the filmmaker isn't judging anything, they're laying out full stories and letting the audience assess for themselves. So how do you maybe go about achieving that, which I think you do here, but also making sure you give your audience a full experience through the story? Yeah, well,
was an actor for a number of years, and I was always really frustrated when a role you just had one or two things to play. I always want to create characters that have a wide range, and you don't judge them. You see their weaknesses, you see their strengths, you see their charm, you see their evilness, if they have that. So that's really important to me. And also, once I became a film director, I really understood how vulnerable actors are on screen, that a director can really make you better and worse than what you're doing, and you just sort of fling yourself out there in trust. So I really feel for actors, because I'm one of them, and that's just really important to me, and that's why I really love actors. I mean, there are so many great films with non-actors and that I love, but I really love working with actors because they can hold more than one thing at the same time and express lots of different levels at the same time. And so I generally am drawn to actors who, are trained, who know what they're doing, and also almost always have some sort of sense of humor, which I think is fundamentally important, even if it's a dramatic piece or not.
You have quite the ensemble here. We obviously have to talk about David. I'm going to throw this your way. What is something about him as a scene partner that you appreciated and maybe helped bring something out of your own character that you wouldn't have been able to without him?
I just felt very safe, and again, I don't know why I keep using this word, but respected by him, and there was just so much. We had to create a pretty loving, intimate bond quickly, because it's an independent film. We don't have a lot of rehearsal time and a lot of days of shooting, and I just found his talent and his kindness to help me be a better present actor in my scenes. It turns out also he's from my town that I'm from. I wish he was here.
I lived in the same New York City apartment building as him for a little while when he was doing a show, and that's my claim to fame. I lived in the same building for a little while, and I saw a show, and it was great. Bringing up the idea of not having a whole lot of time here, I guess for each of the actors, maybe what particular scene did you want to carve out the most time for yourself to prep for? And then Angus, for you, of everything on the shooting schedule, what did you want to make sure that you left that kind of wiggle room open for?
I think... especially for the character of David, Angus and I had spoke about finding the moments in the film where we really get to see him and not the sort of character he's putting on for the world. So there's a scene of him leaving the factory with his dad that from the beginning we had talked about. And there's 2 scenes with his dad where David sort of drops his facade and is really vulnerable and allows briefly to himself to be seen by his father. So that was for Angus and I talked about that a lot, and we really, for me, a lot of the prep work was to build to that moment and have that moment kind of live throughout the entire film.
That scene you referenced is great.
No, thank you.
How about for you, Celia?
Well, it was with David as well. It's towards the end of the film, and it's the most cataclysmic scene they have, and I liked that we see throughout the film that they are partners and they're friends and they have respect for each other and they've built something they're proud of, and this was something that I felt my character had to shake him to understand what had happened to them, really, the ramifications of it and the tragedy of it. And that was an altercation. But, they made it through it, and it's not the first one they've had.
I feel like I know which one you might go for.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we shot the scene where my character is in the doctor's office having an abortion the day that the Supreme Court reversed Roe versus Wade. And, as actors, I think we can all relate. You have a scene in any project that you're about to work on that you have a lot of anticipatory anxiety about. You're like, oh, this is the scene that I have to deliver this. And oftentimes we put pressure on ourselves that don't need to be there. So for this scene, I was already like, I have my own baggage when it comes to this subject. And I just felt it was, it's sort of, you could argue that my character's climax is at the end of the movie. I think it's the scene where she's in the doctor's office. But anyways, I had all this tension and anxiety about the scene, never knowing that that piece of news was going to come out. So anyways, I was in the green room. Again, it's an independent film. We didn't really have green rooms or like holding areas. And I was waiting to shoot the scene, and I got a text from my mom. And I guess I'm naive, but I really wasn't expecting that at any point. And so that scene, there was a collective grief and rage that I don't know. I can't believe that timed out that way.
Life meets art.
I vividly remember everything I did that day, so to know how it lined up with the work you were doing that day, I can't even compute how you would put yourself through that.
Well, I have to say I was really grateful. I feel super, super grateful that I'm an artist and that I get to, make movies with these feelings.
And when we're doing this today, tomorrow is the 50th anniversary of Roe versus Wade, and then we premiere on Monday. So it's a really strange reality that we're dealing with.
I still can't wrap my head around that reality. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your visual language on the film. Celia, when you were discussing your scene, one scene that popped in my mind that I loved, and it's so simple, but it fills out their world, it makes it feel full, is when you go into Patty's room and you're collecting all the laundry and then you just decide to put it down. A lot of the movie has moments like that where it's just letting a character do their day-to-day, having people come in and leave frame. What was it like figuring out the right way to capture this family and how they operate?
Well, I had a great cinematographer, Scott Miller, who I adore, and he was the only one really I felt when we were making the film who understood what I was trying to do. I drove the continuity person a little bit because she'd say, well, you didn't catch this, and I'm like, no, I want it to just be, we did a lot of oneers. I mean, we just did one shots. And that's because I love actors and I love seeing behavior. And there's a lot of filmmakers who I really adore, like Jean Renoir and Mike Lee, who like long takes so that you can see behavior. So that was a real intentional thing. And for me, to answer your other question, I mean, what concerned me was the most was in terms of we didn't have any wiggle room. Were scenes where there's like 11 scenes in the kitchen, and I was like, oh my God, how are we going to do that? And a lot of them are like the early morning routine that these people have done for years, and we had no rehearsal. And so it was like choreographing who goes where, especially Jane, who had to like make breakfast and fill pill boxes and have dialogue and do everything, and she's incredible at this. I mean, I would give her, it would be like the morning, and I'd say, okay, now you go over here, because I'd mapped it all out in my head, and you're going to make this and take the lettuce over here, and then you put it in here, and then go here, and you go, here's a bag, and make sure the bags don't wrinkle too much because the sound person will be mad, and then sit down and do this, and she'd go, okay. And then she'd just do it. Yeah.
I can't even remember my own daily routine on a regular basis, so I'm impressed that you could do that.
I just finished a TV show where I had to learn dance choreography. So
all right,
Yes,
I
she told me
could see how that would come in handy.
I mean, she said she had to learn a song and choreography every week, and I thought this training paid off.
Exceptional in Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. I'll keep blabbing about that show because I want to will more into existence.
Thank you.
You don't get nominated for an Emmy and not do more. You just
NBC, Roku.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way. I have 2 more questions for you, and I will warn you, my last one is the silliest thing I will have asked this entire festival. Before I get to that one, though. So I am a big cheeseball, and I find that we don't say good job to people in this industry nearly enough. So on this film, whether it is an actor on camera or someone behind the scenes, can you each name someone who just absolutely crushed something about their work, and you want to say good job to them?
Well, I mean, all of them. And, I just completely believe in that the fish stinks from the head, and that, the director can set a tone where people are appreciated and not just, I was an actor and then a screenwriter for a long time, and you are treated like shit when you're a screenwriter generally, and I had been. And I just felt like when I became a director, everyone is important, and you're always trying to capture lightning in a bottle. You never know how it's going to turn out. But for our 19 days that we were together, why does it have to be miserable? And I feel like when I was an actor, you do your best work when you feel safe and you feel appreciated. But I do have to say that really Scott Miller to me was just a yeoman. I mean, he's the calmest person, and I had never worked for him before, my cinematographer, and if I would have an idea and it wasn't quite his, he would the most gently suggest his, and if I said, no, that's not right, he'd go, okay, fine. And he would interpret it. There was one scene with Celia where we were shooting upstairs in like 98 degree without air conditioning, and we couldn't get the dolly wasn't high enough, so he had to stand on boxes and like bend his knees, do a deep plie to get this shot before it goes down close to her. And he's sweating, he's pouring sweat. And when I watched the footage too, I was like, what's that sound? And it's him breathing so heavily with the camera on his head. So he's my most valuable player on the shot, on the scene.
Yeah, he was. His temperament was delightful.
There was a lot of students from, what's the name of the college?
The University of North Carolina School of the Arts. We're both alumni.
Yes. Sorry, and thank you. But there was a lot of
One
students
of the leading film schools in the world, by the way.
And drama school.
Well, the students that were working on the film were incredible, and they were like learning on the job, and I'm so grateful for everything that they contributed.
Yeah, I would say our crew, they made so much with so little, and it was everything was so. It didn't feel this way, I think because of Angus and our producers and the crew's attitude, but it was really just a tight, we had no room and no wiggle room. And so to see them all moving and a lot of students within the crew, like it was one cohesive organism, that like all I had to do was walk in and pick up a juice. So I got to sit and watch everybody, and it was really amazing. I mean, and everyone just had the best attitude, it was always just, everything felt really kind and respectful was a good word, I would say. Yeah.
And I'll just also mention David Strathairn, who is everything you imagine him to be. I mean, he's a complete mensch. And involved and spoke to everyone and never like went away. And always his questions were an actor's questions, and he just was, you're supposed to not meet your idols, and I wouldn't say he was an idol, but he really lives up to what you imagine. And I really needed also for that character, for someone who you could believe was a man of great rectitude and respect and gravity, and trustworthy, who's trying to do his best. And he not only is a terrific actor, but really a terrific person. He can't be here because he's doing a one-man show called Remember This, the Lesson of Jan Karski in Poland. So that's why he's not here.
It's a pretty solid reason to not be here
Yeah.
right now.
It's a good question. I want to keep thanking people, but I know we don't have time.
I really could do it all day long. That's why I keep repeating that question at a lot of interviews now, because I really am. I'm a big believer we don't say good job to other people, but I also get this feeling like we all don't say good job to ourselves enough and celebrate the things we're proud of. I would go down the line and say one thing for everyone right now, but I have to let you go.
I'll say quickly that trust for and respect for this guy, because I've known him for so long, and he just has endless faith in me, and just the honor to get to, as he's working on something, his reaching out to share it with me for thoughts, and I feel honored by that.
All right. Are you guys ready for my last question?
Yeah, but first I want to say
Stop giggling.
I want to first say good job. You're doing a really good job.
You're going to take that back after I ask this. So we had a debate earlier in Sundance, and I was looking for an excuse to ask this, and the only reason I have an excuse is because there is a scene where there's a jar of peanut butter at the center of a scene. This is a very important question, the last question I'll ask at Sundance 2023. You have to make a peanut butter sandwich. What goes on it? I want everyone's answer.
I mean, jelly.
Was that like a really I gave a judgy face.
Yes, a peanut butter
Okay.
sandwich. Yeah. Oh, it would have to be strawberry jam,
Okay.
Polliners all fruit, and Smucker's all natural peanut butter. Yeah.
I'm scared of what you think.
I'll give you my
Okay,
answer at the
okay.
end.
Mine is actually rye toast with peanut butter, and then I heat it in a frying pan just to get it all smushy, and then I put olive oil on it, and then
Wow.
I have a serrated knife, and I make even cuts like that. Then I go like that, so then I have little.
You asked the
tidbits.
right person.
Yeah.
That is a great answer that now I have to
It's a
try.
good peanut butter thing.
I want what she's having, but I would say I have from Asheville, North Carolina, from Biscuit, had jam from a place there, so it'd be peanut butter and jam and grill in the pan, for sure.
For the record, Celia's answer kind of lines up with mine. I got heavily criticized because I am a peanut butter fan, and sometimes I think that the jelly takes away from the peanut butter, so it's a plain peanut butter sandwich.
There you go.
Solid.
I respect that.
Solid.
Now that we've settled this, I can end my Sundance interviews for this year, but I will say huge congratulations on A Little Prayer. Thank you so much for coming by the Collider Studio.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For having us.